The Underground, Ideas into Action presents an Underground Chat, where we bring the underground conversation to you. Today's chat, The Future is Now, with Brett Martinez, President and CEO of Redwood Credit Union.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. I'm so excited to see you, and I'm excited to, have this conversation. So, Brett Martinez, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the credit union.
I hate talking about myself, so that's going to be a tough one. I'm Brett Martinez, President and CEO of Redwood Credit Union. Been in the industry for longer than that, 34 years. Grew up around the credit union industry. My mom was the CEO of a small credit union. My brother works for CUNA Mutual, so it's definitely in the family blood. Live and breathe credit unions, just like you do. Mm-hmm. And a Redwood Credit Union, very fast growing. We're just short of $6 billion this year. This year by itself has been crazy growth. A lot of credit unions are dealing with that. 366,000 members, full service on the business side, consumer side. There's really not much that we don't have. Lots of technology. We have a auto dealership and an insurance agency and investment part of the credit union. Investment's not that different than most, but I think there's only 2 credit unions in the country that actually have an auto dealership, and so one's in Florida and then us. So we do a little bit of everything. We're San Francisco. We have members all across the world actually, but basically branches San Francisco north into the North Bay through Sonoma, Napa.
Yeah, and you have a foundation as well, which we'll explore a little bit more. But you just mentioned your geographic location, which reminds all of us that you've been an advocate and very involved in working with your communities. And you guys have been, not only are we dealing with the health crisis this year, but you've been dealing for quite a few years with the fire. Yeah. And the fires and what's happening there. We wish everyone well. We hope your family's well, and credit union family.
Yeah, it's actually, you can barely see outside. You can't breathe. We just, major fires started about 3 weeks ago, very early this year. The difference with us is we've had major fires 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and now 20. Wow. And it's not just the fires. It's fires is one thing. Smoke is a disaster all by itself. We've had floods following the fires and major power outages because the power company, a lot of the fires are starting because of power lines. So major evacuations and major power outages, which are really the ramifications of the fire. The 2015 was the 3rd largest fire in California history. That's where we got our feet wet and actually started our fund. And then we had fires and multiple fires a year, not just one. And then in 2017, we lost 7,000 homes almost overnight. 5,600 of those homes were within a 3-mile radius of our corporate office. We almost lost our corporate office that night. Lots of employees, lots of members impacted. Even though 5,600 was in a short radius of our corporate facility, the fires were within 4 surrounding counties of our core membership base and our corporate office. It's interesting because each fire, we've gotten really good at this. I don't know that's something I ever really wanted to get good at, but we are extremely good at this. And last November, before COVID, we had a major fire. And the impact was even more significant, even though we didn't lose 7,000 homes. And it feels weird to say that because people losing their homes is a big deal. But they evacuated hundreds of thousands of people, mandatorily evacuated hundreds of thousands of people. And then major power outages throughout the whole region, and both the evacuations and power outages lasted a long time. And the impacts of something like that is significant. We actually lost our corporate facility last November, not in a fire, but it was evacuated. We didn't have access to it. The things that we did and the learnings that we got from that allowed us to move on COVID. Like, it was almost no big deal. It was a big deal, but our readiness for that was crazy. And then, so we've been through all that. And in June, we started practicing we don't practice in case anymore. We practice because it's going to happen. These fires that started 3 weeks ago, they really started in our area. We were surrounded by 4 of them, but they're all up and down the West Coast now. I think the rest of the country is getting our smoke at this point in time. But we started practicing in June, and I had a lot of people saying, "Why are you guys practicing? You know how to do this." We'd never done this with COVID, right? COVID's a whole different thing, throwing fires and smoke and all that on top of it. So, it happened 3 weeks ago, way early in season. Our fund that you talked about, we really started it in 2015, and we've gotten better and better and better. In 2017, we raised, when we lost the 7,000 homes, we raised $32 million from 41,000 donors from all 50 states and 23 countries, and then distributed those funds. We raised them in 4 months and distributed those funds to the short-term disaster needs of our communities in 4 months. It was literally the craziest thing I've ever been involved in. The stress level. I told my board at the beginning of this, and I warn people, don't try and do what we do, because sometimes we do some crazy stuff. It was this point at the beginning. I told my board, I said, we're either going to destroy our brand or take our brand to the next level. I'll let you know how it went in 5 months from now. Luckily, but when you have $32 million, it really isn't a lot of money. But everybody thinks it's, you have all this money and everybody has an opinion and there's fraud and everybody's coming at you. And my team just did an amazing job. And so we opened the community fund a couple weeks, or about a week ago. Now everybody's, we're not the only ones we got COVID across the world. Everybody's got their own issues. But the difference this time, unfortunately, is we've opened the fund for the fire season, not for a fire. Because I also, like I said, we were going to have fires. They came early. We're going to have more. We don't question that. We know that we're going to have more, so we're just prepared for the more the funds open. And it's not just about what's happened right now, but what is still ready to happen.
I'm so sorry to hear what you're going through, and I'm so excited to know that it is now part of the plan. It's not a reaction, it's not a disaster recovery or social disaster, it's part of doing business, because I think really that's the place we have to get. But one thing that occurred to me when you were talking about that was the idea that you're evacuated from your safe place. Okay, whether that's at work or whether that's at home. Now in 2020, we've all had to go to our safe place virtually, right? And we've had to stay at home, and we've had to figure out our virtual connections. When you look at what your team is going through and your communities of, all right, we're at home, we're taking care of our children, we're putting our kids through virtual school, we're doing all of these things because of COVID, and now we're having to be evacuated from our homes because of fire. Where do they go, Brett? I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah. So in 2017, and I would say this about our community in general, but definitely I'm going to talk about our staff. The impact was huge. We had hundreds of employees out all over the place, running from the area, going to family in Southern California, and didn't have a plan. They were caught off guard. We've really focused on our staff having a plan. And remember, I said we started practicing in June for this situation. And your plan's different when you're working from home. And the plans before were prior to COVID is, whether it's a house or your office or wherever, you pull people together and people crammed and you do what you need to do. You can't do that in COVID. So we really focused on the plans, and we went, one of the first things you do in a disaster like this is you go get hotel rooms, as many as you can find. And it's just one of the first things we do. We don't even think about it anymore. And this time we only had 3 employees. And we also this time knew who had a plan and who didn't, because we've been so focused with and we only had 3 employees that needed a hotel. We had all these hotel rooms that we didn't need. And I would say our communities in general, when you've been through it multiple times, you're more prepared for it. People are resilient. Our community's resilient. My staff's amazing. They're resilient. But, even COVID, is what I tell people is, history says we're going to get through COVID. History says that we're going to get through these fires, and we're going to come out stronger and better. And we just got to stay together. We just got to stay together up here. The biggest impact of these disasters, and we have the layering effect. To us, it's not just COVID. I got 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So the layering effect of 2 things, the financial impact and the mental impact of that is the biggest thing that we're dealing with up here outside of COVID. COVID isn't the thing. It's the layering of all of those different things.
That's fascinating. So disaster recovery typically is about backup plans and business resumption and all of the traditional methodologies, business practices that we speak to. But you're talking about a combination of a financial plan, which is tactical, but the mental plan, that is taking into concern how I feel, the emotional intelligence. I just a quick little story. I was up, I think it was last year, doing a strategic planning in Napa when the power outages happened. And I remember thinking that it reminded me of the days when I used to have my earthquake preparedness, and I always had the kits with me and so on. And I put in my mind, I've got to have some type of fire preparedness now when I'm traveling on my own and may not have a car available and things like that. So it's literally all of us looking at our own situations, whether at work or at home, and having, like you said, a plan. So it's just, how does that all come together, and how did you acknowledge the mental side of it?
Well, first thing, you have to have a plan, and your plan needs to get, every little thing every year, even what's as good as we are the past 3 weeks, we've already implemented changes and things that we need to do in order to be better. And it's a focus of ours. And you think about the details. The details are, you must have been in Napa last November, is my guess, end of October, beginning of November. Major power, hundreds of thousands of people, evacuations, all that type of stuff. We were the only financial institution open in many of the communities around us. We have generators, and we have, so my learning lesson is, you have to take care of your staff first. All your systems and everything can be up and running. It doesn't matter if you don't have staff to take care of it. And then if your systems are working and your staff are there, and I said smoke is a disaster by itself, and nobody can breathe, it doesn't matter. So air purifiers in all of our locations, generators in all of our locations. There were some communities where we were the only business, not just the only financial institution open, but the only business open. And we never closed through any of this. We've never closed through COVID. We've got this thing down, and your staff needs to know that you've got their back, and they need to take care of their families and all those things, but then they need to show up so that you can help your members and communities.
I'm sitting here, I've got a little chills, because I'm so much a believer in people. And you mentioned that we both love credit unions, because really that's the core of it. It's the people involved, and you being there for your members is so significant. But also, that to me also demonstrates the trust that your team has in you as a leader, in your executive team and the board. I know this is a little way from the discussion, but I just want to commend you for that. Do you find that? Is it a culture of trust now, built upon, so many factors?
Yeah, but trust goes both ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I think in 2017, I just remember, people's houses were burning and they were getting evacuated, and they showed up, and what they did, their skill set, their dedication is, I trust them back. It's an amazing team. We're stronger for it. It is something that brings people together. It can push people apart, but we're focused on bringing people together, and people are proud of what we do and understand. One of the state regulator, when there's a declaration of emergency, says, "Oh, you can close." And usually when I talk, I say, I can't in my wildest dreams imagine closing. When your members ran out of their house at 1 o'clock in the morning, I mean ran out of their house because they couldn't get their car out in what they were wearing to bed. And I always tell people, be careful what you're wearing to bed. But without their purses and their wallets and that kind of stuff, what is the first thing they need? The first thing they need is us.
Access.
They need access. They left their debit and credit cards and those burned, right? Or if their house didn't burn, they can't get back to it to get it. They need to find shelter, clothes, food, and they need their financial institution. And this whole, we've never closed. There's no excuse for us closing, and our disaster plan needs to make sure we can't. Whatever's been thrown at us, and we've had crazy things thrown at us. I don't understand closing. I just don't. We haven't closed during COVID.
I think that's fascinating, and the whole concept, and I think Jim Nussel Acuna made the comment that credit union people are essential workers, and first responders and essential workers, and you've just demonstrated why. I think that it's very clear that you consider that, or you still consider that to be a primary focus. Yeah. I can see us, running around. Literally, I know that we had a fire close to our home, and they said, prepare to evacuate. And I remember looking around the house, and I had time to think about it, trying to figure out what you take, And after that happened, now I know I literally have things where if something were to come up during this time of year, I'd be prepared to the extent I could be. So, okay, so here we are, dealing with all of the things that we're dealing with on an economic, the global environment. I mean, the scope of things. You've got a team that came together and they trust each other. When you think about technology and you think about the virtual engagement that we have, how does fintech fit into all of this and technology? And do you see us going more high tech and lower touch, even though you said never closing? Tell me how that all comes together for you.
Yeah, I have some strong opinions about that.
Really?
Surprise. But I want to talk about those two things, and I'll give some examples. So high tech. Is what we're doing right now high tech?
Yeah, it's high tech, but
I don't even know what high tech is anymore, and I don't believe in no touch. I don't believe in no touch at all. So we're really good at technology, and our technology is meant to be built with people. And I think there's so much good. Everybody's freaking out, and I get it. There's the mental aspects of what's going on, and just talk about COVID. There are things within the first 2 weeks of COVID that I've been trying to get my team to do for years that happened like that. You talked about the underground and some of the decisions you guys need to make, and there's certain things that we shouldn't go backwards on. I have a whole list of things like, this is what we did, and I want to be real clear right now, we're not going backwards, right? This has changed how we do it forever. So let me try and give you a couple examples. We have an auto dealership, and we serve this pretty big geographic area, and I've always wanted you to be able to call in and say, I want that car. And the auto dealership is not an essential business. So it was the only thing that we had to close. The rest of our organization was completely open. But I challenged them. I said, I'm not letting you guys offer anything. I want you guys to figure out how to do what I wanted to do years ago. And that's to deliver a car completely digital, and I want you to drive it to, they don't have to come here. You do everything online, all of the paperwork, because the excuse was DMV. Can't do it because of DMV. Guess what we figured out in 1 week? How to deliver a car, sign all the paperwork, take care of DMV, and drive the car to their house. We kept on selling cars during the pandemic in a business that was actually officially shut down. Our insurance agency, just being able to deliver everything using, and it's not that we didn't have DocuSign, but all of our mortgage loans and business loans and all loans, we went paperless. Been trying to go paperless for years. We went paperless overnight. We have 91% of our staff working, back office staff working from home. They don't have printers. And when we come back, we're not gonna have printers, right? We've made these shifts in our business model. Our investment people are using video. Is that high tech? It's why, if you and I were talking on the phone right now, we wouldn't. I'm actually a big fan of video, and I want to we've gotten really good at it. I want to be excellent at video. I don't miss my team as much because we're videoing. If I was just talking or emailing my team, I would, we're missing out on some innovation and stuff like that in today's world, but we innovated like crazy. And there's all of these things that, and it literally it's either couldn't do, or it was going to take us a couple years. It was in our plan. They happened overnight. And so we're really focused on all the good things and making sure that we don't go backwards. Figuring out this dispersed workforce, not everybody having to be in the office all the time. I think I'm not a person that believes the office is going away. We're actually started after COVID started. We are building a second back office facility, which is about 110,000 square foot second back office facility. So you don't start a project like that thinking that the office is going to go away, but it'll be different and there'll be flexibility. And when you have multiple back offices, this video and people communicating back and forth. So we're doing more webinars. We just did a webinar 2 nights ago with Gene Chatsky, and it was a live webinar, so people came and showed up, but it has a shelf life. We also did a stress management webinar back in June, talk about the mental aspects. So mental and financial, and those webinars are being viewed like crazy from our members, but from our staff too. Our staff is also impacted by the mental and financial aspects. So us actually connecting with people more in this, it's different, but we're connecting with people more, and there's a lot of good in we travel all over the place. You're on mute.
Well, I want to, to build on that. You're absolutely right. Our business is built on traveling. So when we first went through this, we were all scattered everywhere. So everybody's trying to get back to Las Vegas before we're locked down. And I know that we spent this much, that much time a day saying, okay, what are we going to do? And then we went virtual, right? But I'm finding, and I find this interesting that you're saying, what you're saying is that we're virtually pretty much 5 a.m. till 7 p.m. right now, and even longer from the standpoint of board meetings and accessibility and the Zoom or whatever your particular communication tool is. That at first it was, we understand if people came through the room or if there were, animals in the room and interruptions and breaks and so on. Now, as we've moved from what I call the disruption that we had to react to the disruption we're planning for, we're all starting to look at the quality of our communication and the quality of our digital impact. So I want to go on this down a path for just a second before we go on. Strategic governance is going to be impacted by this. And I'm interested in your opinion of that because, as you know, we're going through disruption with a volunteer group anyway, we need to modernize governance. We need to continue to build upon what I believe is one of the most powerful things in our industry is our volunteer governance structure. And so having them digital, having them virtual, one of the things I've been talking to my boards is that you've got to be more strategically engaged through your virtual means. We can't just do speakerphones and things like that. What's your thought about that direction?
You know, it's actually working fine for us. The issue is the same with the employees working from home. It's working fine, but that we're social animals, right? So there is an impact with our employees, even though we're working from home and videoing and stuff. And that's the same with the board. It's more of the relationship stuff. So I've been doing different outside the board meeting kind of happy hours and just social video stuff with board members to keep them connected. It's certainly not the same, but you know, our annual meeting is going to be, our annual meeting has been the same forever because there's just no way to cut off those 100. I mean, if it was 100 members and then a bunch of employees in this big event, but we're so geographically spread, it was the same 100 people that came every year. We had 366,000 members. So again, a change that we're going to be doing digital annual meetings. And we had already been doing the board meeting stuff digitally, but there is no phone calls. You're on video. We did all of our committee meetings prior to pandemic. Board meetings still face to face, but all of our committee meetings were digital. So they were practiced at it. They all have iPads and technology and our board software. So that wasn't that big of a deal. The only change is that, you know, dinner afterwards and the connectivity. I'm a big believer in it. It's very important, and it's the only thing. I'm not worried about the governance. I'm worried about the relationship piece. I'm not worried about the staff. I'm worried about the relationship piece.
Got it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of changes that are positive that won't go backwards.
I like the idea of taking time to specifically schedule social engagement in addition to whatever your business practice is. So let's transition here a little bit with what's going on with our schools. And you know, California obviously has you know, been, if you will, cautious about returning, and there's all types of different models, hybrid models going on. I know that education is important to you. I know financial education is something that's very important. How are you managing that financial education piece, and how do you see that moving forward?
Yeah, it's the same thing, forced innovation. So we do a lot of financial education in schools, in the workplace, and in nonprofit community groups all year round. We're still doing it. It's just done all digitally, and it's actually easier to do it digitally. And it's one of those things that we were just talking about it the other day. And it's not that we won't do in person, but this innovative thing we would have never done had this not happened. Schools are needing curriculum. They're needing to get the students engaged. And last year on Columbus Day, we don't call it Columbus Day, we call it our Staff Impact Day, but we went out to, all 700 employees went out to 15 schools and did financial education. It's called Bite of Reality here, and did that live in 15 schools and taught 3,100 kids in one day. So that won't happen this year, because we can't go face to face, but we're doing more video financial education than actually more than we were doing in the live environment. It's easier to put on.
And the life shelf, I would imagine, as you indicated, it'll be longer. And one thing you said earlier that I want to come back to as well, you said your financial counseling, and I think your wealth management, your investment strategies, all of that's continuing virtually as well. And I thought that was a great idea. I mean, frankly, having the time to get over to see my financial advisor or to go to the credit union has always been something that is difficult, but the idea of being able to schedule it virtually.
Yeah, and we have the ability for members to go on and schedule appointments. That was prior to this. It was something that had just rolled out actually. But you know, it's not just getting the members to make the change, but it's getting the staff to make the change and so our financial advisors are doing video chat with members. I mean, you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to drive across town. It's easier to just to do. And some people still want that face-to-face, and we're kind of cautiously providing that in a very protected environment. But yeah, if forces changes that needed to happen, these changes needed to happen well before COVID. And
I love it. I was talking to Stephen from Alchemy, and we were talking about the speed of change and the areas that we don't want to have go back. I understand that we want to have the social connection and I want the personal time together, but the efficiency of communication has really been something. And I want to transition now to the small businesses. And this has been something I've been interested in with you for a while, because as you said, you've planned and you've gone through all of these experiences. So small businesses have had fires, they've had disruption, now they have COVID. What are you doing within your community to help the business person navigate this time?
well, to just talk about, so we're up in Sonoma, Napa, San Francisco, so a lot of the tourist area. So this fire impacts that, as you said, but just even smoke. A fire in a different area where the smoke comes into our area is people aren't going to come. So they've been being impacted since 2015, year over year, and it's that small drip on their financial capabilities. You know, we're doing everything we can to help them. Deferments. We have done over 2,000 PPP loans. I told you that the $32 million from our fund was the craziest thing I'd ever been involved with. The second craziest thing was the PPP process. And, you know, that's something that we're top SBA lenders in our area. I think we've been the number one, sometimes number two SBA lender in the credit union industry across the country for years. So we've been doing that for a long time. But it's SBA. We don't control the rules and the timing and all that. It was the most dramatic thing because, you know, there's just money and it's going to be gone tomorrow. And, you know, staff was working 24 hours a day to process. And I know in the state of California, we process the most out of any credit union. And one of the top in the country, over 2,000. So I think what the small businesses are dealing with right now is right now they want to, and Congress is dragging their feet. They want forgiveness. They want two things. They want forgiveness and they want a second round of PPP. And as we're speaking right now, timing's interesting on both from stimulus for the consumer and business. How long's Congress, you know, they just started back again. Are they going to do their job? Businesses and consumers need another round of stimulus. They do. And if they get it and Congress acts, I feel pretty good about what's going to happen. Right now, our membership and our businesses are doing pretty well. SBA gave 6 months mandatory. I mean, you couldn't make a payment to SBA if you wanted to for 6 months. So what's going to happen after the 6 months? That's what they're thinking. They want to know about their forgiveness. They want to know if there's another round. And every one of them has a different cycle. So retail is like, if I can just make it to the holidays. Tourism, right now, especially with the fires and stuff, tourism's kind of over this year. If I can make it to March. And then we have really three groups. We've got the ones that their business model was broken and they were struggling before COVID. They're pretty much not going to make it. Innovation, the stuff that we're talking about with the credit union, the innovation that we're seeing, our businesses are doing actually really well. The question is how much longer. We don't know how, with a vaccine and COVID and all that kind of stuff, there's too many unknowns in this equation, but they're doing really well. The innovation, a t-shirt manufacturer making face masks, they're doing better than they were before COVID. If you want anything done at your house, any construction, any landscaping, any of that kind of stuff, 3 months. If you're a bicycle or a exercise equipment, if you want to buy a bicycle right now, they'll tell you, I bought one, a new mountain bike. It's like, okay, we'll get it to you in 3 months. So there's businesses that are flourishing, and there's businesses that have innovated, and then there's businesses that were broken. So they're really in three different categories. And in general, our membership, consumer, and our businesses are doing really well. We just did a Gene Chatsky webinar the other night, and we did a survey, all these different questions. 5% were struggling. There was stuff in the middle. 65 were doing well, saving for their long-term and short-term goals, and everything was thumbs up. So the question is how long does that last? And Congress does need to jump back in.
So 2021 for credit unions financially, you mentioned the mental and then you said the financial. 2021, what does that look like for credit unions? I mean, I know we have a lot of unknowns and the things you've mentioned, but what's keeping you up at night? What are you thinking about?
There's nothing what keeps me up. I'm an insomniac, so everything I spend my time at night thinking about people. If I'm worried about one thing, it's people. I'm not worried about the credit union. I'm not really that worried about our industry. I worry about people. People are divided and caustic and are going through a lot. So I worry about people, and I spend my time critically thinking at night, not worrying about. I don't really worry about much at all. I think the financial impact. We're taking all of we're upping our provision this year. So next year, our delinquency is ridiculously low because of all the deferments. Same thing with everybody else. We're choosing to take, done a lot of modeling and guessing at what those loan losses, being very aggressive on our provision. And we'll take that all this year. Next year, knock on wood, we'll be taking some charge-offs and taking some hits and helping people, continuing to help people. So I'm not worried and I think our industries, people are handling it different. Some are doing the same thing we're doing it, kind of reserving this year for this summer, waiting to see what happens. And so the financial impact will be, you really won't be able to tell what's happening with an individual credit union here for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's true. And the regulator right now is listening and appears to be participating in solutions. And I'm curious as to that partnership going forward. I think it's going to be critical to help us navigate through this.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job overall, but there's still room for improvement.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so people, I'm glad to have you not worrying about the day-to-day and caring about the people. One thing, I know you told me about your survey that you did a few years ago where you talked about your culture, and there was one word that kept coming up when it came to your members and how the credit unions feel about you. And I think I shared with you a story that I'd taken an Uber, and in that conversation with the Uber driver, he asked where I was going, and obviously I gave him Redwood Credit Union, and then he told me his story about how much he loves the credit union. So tell me just briefly about that, your culture.
I had to bring that up.
I love it.
Our brand is love, and so let's be clear. I didn't decide what our brand is. Our members did. So we have a pretty unique brand. It's love. Our members love us. It's pretty. When we actually did all the study and all that kind of stuff, it was a little shocking to have it come back. But the reality is they showed us. It wasn't a surprise to us because people tell you we love you guys and use that word over and over and over, and we got used to that. We just didn't really realize that that was our brand. And what they really love is our people. We know that. And we started talking about technology, and as you move to technology, if your brand is about people and people love your people, technology can't replace that. So technology is meant to enhance that. And we really, on the technology side, focus in on the experience. And the easiest way for me to explain it is if our members love our people and they quit coming into the branch, which we want them to do, and they start taking a picture of their check, do they still love us when they get done taking a picture of that check? And the answer, if you don't think about that, the answer is no. You can lose that love over a period of time. So we focus in on the experience. I want you to feel good when you get done taking a picture of that check. So we have confetti if you did it right, we have confetti and everything making you feel good about the experience. When you donate to our community fund on our mobile app, instead of donate done, you just donated 20 bucks or 100 bucks, whatever, a heart comes up, and it's this experience. It's making you feel good, just like our staff does when you get done with the transaction.
That's wonderful. Oh, I love that. That could be a whole other conversation. Okay, so when we talk about takeaways and what you'd like to say to the industry, or to me, what do you think are the key takeaways?
I think we didn't talk about mission, and that's kind of crazy.
Go to mission. I was thinking about your love and your culture. So tell me a little bit about how that all ties together with the mission.
Well, I'll probably stay more generic than that on the answer. It's right now. Why do you have a mission statement? It's to guide you, and it guides you during the good times, but it has to guide you during the tough times. I always tell people, I do a lot of speaking and stuff, and people want to know, don't do what we do unless it ties with your mission. Live your mission like your life depends on it right now. And if credit unions do that, sometimes it's like times are tough, you're struggling financially. And I actually have my team going through an exercise right now on mission. It's as an individual, sit down and think about, are you living our mission right now? And then is your branch or department living our mission right now? I'll tell you if I asked that question, I mean right now. Well, I asked that question back in April, May, June with the PPP and everything we were doing. We were killing it. Our brand was going through the roof. But like everything else in life, it kind of comes like this. And right now, there's a difference between running the business, and our mission is to passionately serve the best interests of our members, employees, and community. So it's not serve, it's to passionately serve. Are we passionately serving right now today? And our answer is no. We're running the business, and we've got all this stuff going on, because you can't be at this crazy passionate level every single day. It's when you recognize that you're probably just running the business and not passionately, and then you drive back up here. Credit unions, you have a mission for a reason. Live it in the toughest times, and you will come out stronger and better than that. And then I told you that I worry about people. So the other thing I have my team doing is really focusing on empathy. Empathy is different than sympathy. Empathy brings people together. Sympathy actually pulls people apart. People get confused about empathy and don't quite understand it. I would tell people to think about empathy, do a little bit of research, understand the difference, because right now, today, the whole world is going through COVID, the same thing. And empathy is understanding what somebody else is going through. There's no better time and along the West Coast, everything's on fire. We all can't breathe. We can be empathetic to each other, and social media and all that crap that's going on out there, it's not good. And what we need is empathy. We need to understand what other people, acknowledge what other people are going through, and come together. And then the last thing I would say is, somebody that's been through disaster after disaster after disaster, and it's not me saying, history says we're going to get through COVID. We're going to get through the fires. We're going to get through all of this, and we're going to come out stronger than we ever have. And I just saw these fires that are going on right now haven't happened since 1910. to this level. But they've happened, and we got through 1910, right? And so it's this mental part up here, having confidence that we will get through and come out stronger. Don't go back to the way things were. Just take these things that we've done and write them down and bring your people along and make them proud about what we've done. And so it's not all bad.
No, and you're an inspiration, and I don't say that in an empty way. I live my life with passion, and you know that, and I've made my living with giving and doing the right thing is good business, and so I relate to passion. I also know the burden that comes with being the one in the room that is going to, keep the group moving forward, and people count on you for that, right? And so I just want to say to you that your passion inspired me. It fills my cup so that I can go do it, and I'm always, willing and interested in giving you some of my passion anytime you need it. I just appreciate you, Brett.
Your passion fills me too. So and that's what the world needs more. It needs more of that.
Yeah.
It really is, it's I don't worry about I don't pray that bad things happen. Certainly I don't. But I know without a doubt when bad things happen, we're going to kick in and our brand's going to go to the next level. So bad things are actually opportunities to we talk about differentiation. It's a little harder to differentiate when everything's great. It's relatively easy to do it when the world's kind of has issues, because most people run away from hard work and doing the right thing.
Well, I know that you step in, and I always like to think that when we go on those camping trips with our children and everything goes wrong and we get stuck and we get dirty and all that kind of stuff, when we get home and we're talking about our favorite memories, nobody says, wasn't it great that everything went well? They say, oh, you remember when Grandma got all dirty? Or we tell those kind of stories, and I think that that's, in a way, the hope that we can have for the future is that we'll look back on these times and we'll say, wow, we got to be home more. I got to write letters. I got to do some stuff that I just didn't do for the last few years.
We haven't talked about the personal stuff, the benefits on the personal side. I didn't realize what travel was doing to me. Last year I was, been on the CUNA board. I was chair last year, and I'd never really been in a hospital before, but I was in a hospital 2 times last year, and I'm more physically strong and fit today than I've ever been. And I'm working more. You talked about being on video from 7 to whatever, but I'm not in a hotel. I'm not in a different time zone. I'm not in an airport. I'm not in a commute to the airport. I'm not on my way to the office. All those little blocks of time are mine now. And family, taking care of yourself, all of those things. There's a lot of benefits. It's people sitting down at the dinner table and having dinner together. It's
yeah. And I don't know if Mike would say that was a benefit that I've been cooking, but do want you to know I've been cooking. So, hey, thank you so much for taking your time. We appreciate you so much.